In an SHTF scenario, could you feed your family just from the land that you occupy? Do you want premium ad-free content? Duh. Content that's not censored by big tech, of course. Well, with SD Insider, you can get behind the scenes and a whole lot more. Link in the description. It's always a good idea to challenge yourself, so today I'm gonna do just that. Now, in my case, it's winter and most of the wild edibles are gone. And to challenge myself even further, I'm gonna use nothing from the house. I'm only gonna use what I have on me with my EDC. So let's talk about what I do have access to. I've got birds and squirrels, deer, turkey, coyotes, and raccoons. And right now, my best chance is gonna be birds and squirrels. And of those two, the best bang for my buck is gonna be squirrels. And now that we understand the animal that we wanna get, it's really important to understand the animal itself. In order to catch it, you gotta know it. Now, squirrels will store food in the fall for winter. It's usually conifer cones, nuts, and mushrooms, but understand they're opportunists as well. They eat insects, eggs, and even birds. And for those that don't know, they do not hibernate. Now, where squirrels stash their food is called a midden. You could also call it a squirrel den. Most people don't realize that squirrels actually have about a half-mile radius and that they have various dens. Now, these dens or middens, they can vary from being underground to being in the hollows of logs or trees, and they can also be up in the branches as well. They're pretty easy to identify by the stripped conifer cones and by the pile of shells. So it's not like if you don't see one there, it's not like they won't be back. In fact, that's probably a good spot for you to set up. The best way to understand their habits is just to find a comfortable seating position and observe their behavior. But not too close, because every hunter knows they're extremely territorial and they have no problem telling you that they are pissed off. Squirrels and birds are the alarms of the forest, so the best approach is always to just be still. And once you've figured out their patterns, then it's time to harvest. So what's the best method? Well, generally speaking, snaring is going to be your best bet. And the reason is because you can harvest the most protein. And if we're talking an SHTF scenario, passive methods are going to be preferred so you don't give your position away. Not to mention the fact that conserving ammo is critical. Now, there are other options. I cannot tell you how many times I was deer hunting and I wished that I had a pellet gun or a slingshot. Now, I don't often carry those options, but what I do have is 15 feet of 24 gauge brass wire in my Wazoo cache belt. And now what we've got to find is a ramp. Squirrels are actually pretty efficient, and so they prefer the path of least resistance. Rather than going straight up a tree, if there's a shortcut available, they'll take it. Now, when I'm looking for a ramp, I'm typically looking for something that's 6 feet or even longer. And as far as the diameter goes, I'm looking for about 2 inches. And I'm definitely trying to find something that still has the bark on it. And you'll also want to strip off the branches from it as well. You typically don't want something that the squirrels can grab onto. So let's get in my belt and see what I've got. There's the brass wire. And here's my Opinel saw that I keep in my pocket. So let's cut this down. And we'll use a plumber's vise for the other cut. That's about right. I'm 6'2", so that's a little bit taller than I am. Now we're gonna get the brass wire out. Now I'm gonna pull a length of it out, and then I'm gonna stick the remaining into the tube just so I can manage it a little bit better. Now we're gonna take this and we're gonna wrap it around the stick a couple times, just like this. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and wrap it underneath, just like this. And I try to make this part of it pretty neat. And the end result should look just like that. Now we're gonna slide this off of the end of the stick. And now you should have a nice little loop. And there should be a tail about 1 inch long. Now you want to pull off about 2 to 2.5 feet, and you want to go ahead and break it off. And I'm just going to use my buckle to do that. Now all you got to do is put this up against a tree. This gives us a place to work. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what to do. You're going to take this loop that you made and go right through, and then come all the way down to the other side. You should have a loop about like that. Now I'm doing two things here. Number one, I want to see exactly where I want to hang this snare so that I have enough, line so that the squirrel can fall and hang. but I'm also looking for a nodule in the tree right here. And that's so that when I wrap this around the tree, it's not gonna slide, and it gives me a spot that I can start twisting off. Now I'll just wrap the remainder of what I've got around it. And then I'm gonna make sure that this is as tight as I can get it up against the tree. And now this is not going to come down no matter what. Now when you get done, it should look just like this. You'll notice there's about 2 fingers width underneath it. And then on the other side, this is the part that's actually gonna slide once the squirrel goes in the noose, and it's gonna fall down and it's gonna tighten up right here. And there's plenty of room between the ground and the tree. And here's what it should look like to the squirrel. And now we're not completely done yet. We've still got to make another one of these because I like to do about 2 per pole. If the pole was a little bit longer, I'd go ahead and put up 3. Okay, so now we've got our second snare on our first trap, and now it's time to decide where to put it. One thing that I noticed today while I was observing the squirrels is that in the morning, they tend to be a little bit more active in the front of the property. And as the day goes on, they're more active in the backside. And that's perfect for us because right now we can go to the front side of the property and set this trap, so it's gonna go ahead and start working for us tomorrow morning. And while that one's working for us, then we can go ahead and start making our other traps, and then we can set up a trap line. What we'll do is we'll work it from the front of the property to the back side of the property. I think I can get at least 2 more traps out of this wire. Now here's a perfect example of the shells and the nuts where a squirrel was in this tree right here, sitting on top right where the tire swing rope is. And what I noticed is he would run along the ground here. He would go up this tree, up to that branch, and he would perch right there and eat his nuts. And so I'm thinking about right here is the perfect spot to put it. Now just to make sure that it stays sturdy, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my knife and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut off a V-notch into the end of this just so that it fits into the tree a little bit better. There we go, just like that. And then I'm gonna dig a little hole into the ground right here. Go ahead and dig that out. Now I can place this right here. And then go ahead and stomp this into the ground just to make it secure. Now this pole is nice and secure and I'm totally digging that. Now I'll set those snares exactly where I want them. Test my pole one more time and we're good to go. Now we have a nice tight fit into the tree. And as you can see, there's 1, 2 snares. Okay, and now that we've got that first trap set up, now it's time to head back into the woods, get a couple more poles, and set up the rest of our snares. And by the end of the day, we should have a pretty good trap line set up. You cannot set up 1 trap and expect it to work. Trapping is a game of numbers. And so in reality, if I was setting this up to feed my family, I would want at least 20 traps set up. Because the reality is that sometimes they'll hit the next day, and then other times they'll take up to 2 weeks, or they won't hit at all, and you have to move the trap. And so while I'm setting up the rest of these traps, y'all get in the comment section. Let me know, what is your trapping experience? What kind of game do you have access to on the land that you're on? And as a final thought, once you had trapped everything that was on your property, what would you do after that? So like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and until next time, fuel those fires. In 2 days, you could have squirrel dumplings.